A prominent pollster told Republican donors that former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has surged in polls in Iowa after Wednesday's Republican presidential debate, Axios reported Tuesday. Tony Fabrizio, Fabrizio, who was the lead pollster for former President Donald Trump's last two campaigns for president, also said in the memo that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, polling a distant second behind Trump, has flattened. DeSantis has flattened, Haley has surged, and Ramaswamy is seen as last week's debate winner, the memo said according to Axios. Fabrizio added that Haley and Ramaswamy are essentially tied with DeSantis in New Hampshire as well. The memo was reportedly sent to fundraisers and allies of former President Trump. Fabrizio was also involved in pro-Trump super PAC, in a pro-Trump super PAC. However, the memo was also reportedly noted DeSantis, Haley, and Ramaswamy are still far behind the former president in both early voting states. According to 538, Trump leads DeSantis, the next high average polling candidate in the Republican primary race, by an average of 34.4% in national polls. This is interesting because, especially when it gets to New Hampshire, I thought Christie was in second place. Or, well, maybe I haven't looked at any recent polls, or I didn't pay attention to, where Haley and Ramaswamy were in relation to DeSantis. But I remember DeSantis being like literally right behind Christie. So if it's true that those two have caught up with DeSantis in both Iowa and New Hampshire, I mean, that's like another W for every campaign that's not DeSantis. It's a victory for Trump because he gets to basically wash away the person that everyone thought was going to be his main competitor for the nomination. It's a victory for Ramaswamy because, I mean, this guy's never held any office before, and he's polling higher than a, a current governor of one of the largest states in the U.S. And it's good for Haley because, as someone who was already governor, and had a little brief stint as the as the UN ambassador. I almost said national security advisor, but for someone who's had like these different roles, it goes back to her thing of I have experience. Um, I think if she's able, so I think Trump will skip the next debate as well, the one at the Reagan Library next month. I'm gonna skip it too, but that's only because I'm not invited. I think if her and Ramaswamy are able to pull off good to great debate performances in this upcoming month's debates, you are going to see either Trump start going to debates, or I'll put it this way: if things keep going the way that they are, you might see DeSantis leave the race before Iowa. I'm not even kidding. If things get so bad to where, like, it's one thing to have gone from being a few points behind Trump in the polls from back at the start of the year to now, 20, 30 points behind. But when you have a candidate who had that much hype, and now he's getting trounced by Christie in New Hampshire, a guy that a lot of Republicans despise, and Ramaswamy and Haley possibly in both Iowa and New Hampshire, two candidates that a lot of people don't even know who they are. I, this is possibly the end of his campaign. I'm not even saying it to be hyperbolic. He needs to pull off some kind, like they were talking about the campaign reset. He better give the best debate performances we've ever seen, in addition to just increasing his ground game in those two states if he wants any chance of still being competitive over there. But just to kind of address Haley, because I think this is interesting. So I said before, Haley is someone who has bad positions on damn near every issue. There are conservatives like Rand or Ron Paul who I may have disagreed with on domestic on the domestic front because they're against the social safety net. But they had foreign policy views that I could kind of like latch on to go, yeah, this person would actually, I wouldn't mind seeing them as president, because even if they tried to say, I'm going to cut this or whatever, the Democratic Congress will stop them. Haley is someone who is pro-war, um, goes and defends Israel like there's no tomorrow. And I don't see a single position she has that would remotely attract me to her campaign, and it's sad because, like I said, there are Republicans. I'm not some partisan hack. There are plenty of Republicans that have several issues I can agree with them on, either on the domestic front or a foreign policy front, and she's not one of them. Even Ramaswamy, when he's talking about like the pointless wars, I can back that. But then he starts talking more, and then I realize that his positions are kind of all over the place. What I'm getting at is a lot of average Americans who don't pay attention to stuff as much as I do, and arguably didn't even see that full debate. They saw clips of her speaking to Ramaswamy. They saw clips of her addressing Pence on the fact that they probably couldn't get the Senate to support a national abortion ban. And to those people, those regular average Americans, Haley looked normal. She looked like someone that could be the first woman nominated by the Republicans and possibly the first woman president of the United States. She looked like a person that could be put in a position of power. She spoke in this authoritative way that was very forceful. She seemed to know what she was talking about, even if we would, those of us that pay attention again would dispute that. But what I'm getting at is, I had a feeling, I didn't think it would be some big giant amount, but I had a feeling she would get at least some tiny increase in from that debate performance, because whether you like her or not, it was strong. She looked good from a pure objective and substanceless standpoint. Now, what also needs to be said is that DeSantis, Haley, to a lesser extent Ramaswamy, because I think he's trying to court Trump supporters in case something happens to Trump, but basically all these people right now are having to deal with trying to coalesce the not Trump vote. Excuse me. And it's going to be harder for DeSantis to do that when he's not really equivocating or being, and I've already talked about, like, the problem, the biggest issue with this field is that besides Christie, most of these people are just too afraid to make the case for their own campaign's existence. But Haley, at least when she started, she was doing the, like the, new generation, right? So, she could at the very least make some claim, and which, like I said, I don't discriminate based off age. Her positions are, in my opinion, probably no better than Trump's. But regular, normal people that live in Iowa or New Hampshire and saw those ads that she put up either once on TV or on, YouTube or whatever, they're going to look at those and go, oh, yeah, there's this new lady that's running for the Republican nomination, and, she sounds like she's not under indictment or having 90-something charges in several states. Yeah, I'll support this person, okay. So Haley's best bet is to put out another good debate performance, which I think she can do. And I'd say the way this is going, by the time we get to probably November or December, we're only going to have maybe 5 or 6 candidates in this race. I don't think most of them are going to stick around until Iowa. Hutchinson is going nowhere. Elder is going nowhere. I think Scott is more a creation of donors than anything else. Even Pence is like, again, like he's not going to win this nomination either. But at least with him, he's gone up a few points since the debate, and there were people who were praising his performance, and how forceful he looked. At this point, the only 6 people who should still be in this race: Trump, obviously, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, Christie, Haley, and Pence. Everybody else, I think, should either get. Of course, they're not actually going to do this, but I think none of those other people have either a chance of winning a single state, let alone the nomination. And I'm not happy to say that about Scott, because I don't sit here being excited when when people fail. I don't think he'd be any worse than Trump. But I think a lot of his allies in the Senate kind of like hyped him up for nothing. And he's starting to realize that as he's been running over the last few months. But, we'll see what goes on with him. And I actually would say that if he were to get out, it would help Haley's campaign tremendously, because they're both biting into the South Carolina native son, I guess you could say, vote of like, hey, this is my home state. The people here, even if they like Trump, are going to vote for me. It's like, no, they're not even there, because her and Scott are splitting it between each other, so Trump could just, get his group and bail. So Scott getting out would probably be most benefit her just for that state alone. But this is a good example of how optics are very successful in manipulating people into thinking that crazy candidates are good for them. And to Haley's credit, she pulled off what I thought was probably the best debate performance besides Ramaswamy, last week. And it seems as if her, or I guess the two of them, are going to have this big boost, and we'll see how far it takes them. I don't think it'll be to the nomination, but you never know.